Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Tonight's story starts right in the middle of a dinner. A quiet restaurant, a flickering candle, two wine glasses, and one sentence that ended everything. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just said it, like she was ordering dessert. 8 words. Soft, precise, and somehow more brutal than any scream could have been. I stared at her, not because I didn't hear her, but because I did. Every syllable lodged itself somewhere deep in my chest, like a shard of glass I wasn't ready to touch. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat tightened like a knot. So I stood up. I pushed the chair in, stupid habit, dropped some cash on the table, and walked out. I didn't even wait to see if she'd follow. She didn't. I walked straight into the cold night air with no plan, no coat, and no clue where I was going. I must have looked ridiculous. Just some guy in dress shoes wandering aimlessly like he lost his car. But it wasn't the car I lost. Now I'm sitting in a motel that smells like air freshener and old carpet glue, still wearing the same shirt from that dinner. I haven't gone home. I haven't answered her messages. I haven't told anyone what she said. Not yet. But I'll tell you. Because if I don't let this out somewhere, I might lose what's left of my mind. And no, she didn't say she was cheating on me. It was worse than that. More casual. More cruel. She said, "Sometimes I look at you and feel nothing." There it is. She went back to her pasta after that. I didn't cry on the sidewalk outside the restaurant. I didn't even sit down. I just kept walking, like if I moved fast enough, the moment might lose its weight. But it didn't. Her words echoed louder with every step I took. Sometimes I look at you and feel nothing. She said it like it was a weather update. Like she was doing me a favor by being honest. But how do you come back from something like that? How do you lay beside someone at night after they've looked into your eyes and basically told you they feel absolutely zero? I didn't go home. I didn't call a friend. I ended up at a gas station on the edge of town, sitting in my car, staring at the windshield, watching bugs smear under the fluorescent lights. I must have sat there for 2 hours before I checked into a nearby motel. Room 17. The kind of place where the bed creaks and the TV only shows channels no one watches. But at least it was quiet. Too quiet. Around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was her. 3 messages. "Where did you go? Can we talk?" I didn't mean it like that. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I knew the second I replied, I'd start minimizing what happened. I'd start doing what I always do, folding myself into someone else's comfort zone. She didn't mean it like that. Then what did she mean? That she sometimes loved me? Sometimes didn't? Was I just wallpaper in our marriage now? Always there, barely noticed, easy to ignore? I tried sleeping, but every time I closed my eyes, I imagined her sitting across from me at that table again, pushing her fork through overpriced ravioli, speaking those 8 words with dead calm. The truth is, that sentence didn't come out of nowhere. I've been feeling the distance for years. The rushed goodbyes, the fake smiles, the quiet dinners where her phone got more attention than I did. But I kept hoping it was a phase. I told myself marriage was supposed to get comfortable, that the passion fades, but the connection stays. But maybe I've been lying to myself longer than she's been lying to me. And I can't help but wonder now, what else has she stopped feeling? The next morning felt like waking up in someone else's life. The motel walls were a sick yellow, the blinds were broken, and the air was heavy with old cigarette smoke, though the sign outside bragged non-smoking. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how many other men had slept here after being told they weren't enough. I still hadn't responded to her texts. By now, there were more. Her tone had shifted from concern to confusion, then to irritation. One message read, "Are you seriously ignoring me over a dinner conversation?" Another said, "Come home. This is ridiculous." There it was, ridiculous. That's what my pain was to her. Ridiculous. Like I was having a tantrum, not a crisis. Around noon, I finally left the motel. Not to go home. I just couldn't stand being inside. I drove aimlessly through neighborhoods that didn't look like mine, trying to remember what peace used to feel like. I passed a park where a couple was laughing over coffee on a bench. She leaned her head on his shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. I hated them for it. And I hated myself for wanting it so badly. I ended up at a hardware store, of all places. I wandered the aisles like I was looking for something to fix, when really, I just didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. I bought a screwdriver and duct tape I didn't need. I'm not sure why. I guess it felt better than buying nothing. At checkout, The teenage cashier asked if I wanted a receipt, and I almost asked her if she ever felt invisible. Instead, I just shook my head and left. Back in the car, I finally opened her last message. It said, "You're being dramatic, Ellis. You always do this, disappear and make me the villain." So that was it. I was the problem now. Not the fact that she confessed to feeling nothing when she looked at me. No, I was the problem because I reacted. Because I didn't pretend everything was okay. Because I didn't swallow it like every other quiet heartbreak she's tossed my way the last 3 years. And maybe she's right. Maybe I am dramatic. Maybe I do vanish when I'm hurt. But can someone explain to me how I'm supposed to stay seated, across from the woman I married, while she tells me I've become a void in her life? I thought love was about weathering storms. But I didn't know the storm would be her. I told myself I wasn't going to spy, that I wasn't going to sink to that level. But around 5 p.m. that evening, I found myself parked 2 blocks from our house, engine off, slouched in the seat like some rookie private investigator. I couldn't explain what I was doing there. It wasn't to go inside. I didn't bring keys. I didn't even shave. I looked like a man who had been mugged by his own marriage and was too embarrassed to report it. I waited. For what? I didn't know. Maybe to see if she looked worried. Maybe to see if another car pulled into the driveway. That last thought came uninvited. I batted it away, but it settled somewhere in the back of my mind like smoke. Thin, persistent, choking. At 5:36, her car pulled in. She got out alone. That should have reassured me, but it didn't. She looked calm. Too calm. Like someone who hadn't spent the last 24 hours wondering if their marriage was in flames. She didn't check her phone. She didn't pace or look around like she hoped I might be hiding in a bush ready to jump out with forgiveness. No, she just walked in. Like it was any other day. I sat there in my car for a while after, staring at our dark windows, thinking about everything we never said out loud. About how quiet the house must be without me. About whether she even noticed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice say it again. Sometimes, I look at you and feel nothing. Over and over. Like a loop. Like it had been recorded just for me. At 3:11 a.m., I did the thing I swore I wouldn't do. I logged into our shared cloud drive. It started innocent. I just wanted to see if she'd added any new design files. But then I saw a folder I'd never noticed before. Tucked between project names. Labeled with a single lowercase letter, J. I clicked it. Photos. Dozens of them. None of me. A few selfies. Candids. Some taken at work, others in cafes. And in most of them, the same man. Slightly older than me. Cleaner haircut. Confident smile. Arms that looked like they knew the gym. In one, he had his hand on the small of her back while she laughed. There was nothing explicit. Nothing technically inappropriate. But the intimacy in those frames, it was screaming at me. I sat there staring at the screen for over an hour. Breath caught somewhere between disbelief and certainty. She hadn't cheated. Not yet. But her heart? Her heart had already left the building. I didn't sleep after finding those photos. I didn't even lie down. I just sat there in the motel chair like it was holding me hostage. The man in the pictures, he was always just a few inches too close to her. His smiles weren't friendly, they were knowing. His hand placement in every shot was intentional. Casual, sure, but only if you weren't the husband on the outside of the frame. I needed to know who he was. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating like a coward. But curiosity and pain are siblings. One feeds the other. So I did what anyone would do. I searched her social media. It didn't take long. His name was Julian. I'd never heard her mention a Julian. But I saw his comments under a few of her posts now that I was looking. Things like, "Brilliant as always," and "That light in your eyes, Marlena." And she replied. Every time. With emojis I hadn't seen her use with me in months. Then I made a stupid mistake. I clicked his profile. We had one mutual connection. One. And when I clicked that name, my stomach hit the floor. It was my cousin Travis. The same Travis who had introduced me to Marlena at a wedding 12 years ago. The same Travis who used to come over for game nights, who toasted at our anniversary, who once borrowed money from me when his business failed. Julian was his college roommate. They started a design firm together 2 years ago. Marlena had done consulting for them last fall. Just a few projects, she said. I remembered her saying it casually, like it barely mattered. Just helping Travis's friend with branding stuff. Helping. Right. Suddenly, all the signs I'd ignored started piling up like a car crash in slow motion. The late nights, working on a pitch. The new perfume. The weekends she said she needed space. That one dinner she bailed on because Travis had an emergency and needed help with something. And I had believed her. I had even offered to drive her. I felt nauseous. The air in the motel room thickened until I opened the window and leaned out, half expecting to throw up. There hadn't been a single fight. No yelling. No screaming matches. She didn't even have the decency to betray me with drama. Just quiet disinterest. Just fading out. And I had stood there like a fool, wondering if I was too boring, too sensitive, too careful with my words. But it turns out I was just too trusting. I sat back down and stared at the screen, Julian's smug profile picture staring back at me. I wasn't even angry at him. Not yet. I was angry at myself for being so easy to fool, for thinking a dinner reservation could fix something she'd already erased. Then her name lit up on my phone again. A new message. I'm worried. Please, just come home. But now I knew what home really was. A crime scene. And I was the idiot waiting for someone to come take the report. I didn't go home. But I didn't stay hidden either. Something in me, maybe stupidity, maybe hope, drove me to my cousin Travis's office building instead. It was Saturday, late afternoon. The lot was mostly empty, except for two cars, Travis's familiar black truck and Julian's sleek silver Audi. I sat in my car across the street, watching the lights from the second-floor window glow against the dimming sky. I didn't even have a plan. I didn't want violence. I didn't want a screaming match. I think I just needed to see for myself. Needed the lie to stand in front of me before I could finally accept it. And then, like clockwork, Marlena appeared. She wasn't wearing her usual gym leggings or work blouse. No, this was different. A fitted dress I hadn't seen before, her hair pulled up, earrings I remembered buying her for our 5th anniversary. She walked confidently through the front doors like she belonged there. Like this was routine. I froze. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't an affair in progress. This was a full-blown replacement. I should have left. That would have been the strong thing to do, right? Walk away, let the silence speak for itself. But I didn't. I got out of my car, crossed the street, and walked right into the building like I was delivering a package. No one stopped me. The elevator opened right into their studio office. I stepped inside, and there they were. Julian sitting casually on a desk, Marlena beside him, laughing at something on his phone. The sound of it twisted in my chest. Not because she was happy, but because it was real. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. They both looked up when I entered. Julian straightened slightly, confused. Marlena's smile dropped like a curtain. "Ellis," she said, stunned. "What are you doing here?" I looked at her, then at Julian. "You told me you sometimes feel nothing when you look at me," I said. "Was this what you meant?" Julian opened his mouth, probably to give some polite lie, but I raised a hand. "Don't. Please don't insult me with damage control." Marlena stepped forward. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, even as my fingers shook. She hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. Because if it wasn't real, she would have denied it in a heartbeat. If it was innocent, there'd be no pause, no guilt in her eyes, no tension in the way Julian wouldn't meet mine. "You could have just told me," I said softly. "You didn't have to burn me alive one dinner sentence at a time." She whispered my name like it was some kind of apology, but it was empty. All I could think about was how many times I tried to fix things, how many dinners I cooked, how many smiles I forced, and for what? So she could rehearse her exit while pretending to still be mine? I turned around and left before either of them could speak again. No yelling, no scene, just a quiet man in dress, shoes walking out of the story someone else had already rewritten without him. I drove for hours that night, not toward any destination, but away from every version of my life that had included her. At one point, I found myself parked in front of my childhood home, just staring at it like the bricks could somehow explain how I'd become this invisible man. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the dark, wondering how long it would take to forget the sound of her laugh when it wasn't mine anymore. My phone buzzed around midnight. I almost ignored it, expecting another half-hearted apology or some manipulative guilt trip. But it wasn't her. It was Travis. "You should talk to me before making assumptions." I had no idea. No idea? That felt rich coming from the man who introduced us, and then stayed silent while his business partner hovered around my wife like a vulture circling a wounded deer. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I opened my voicemail, and that's when I saw it, a message from my mother. Left just 15 minutes earlier. I hadn't told her anything, hadn't spoken to her in weeks, and yet, something in me knew before I even hit play. Her voice cracked through the speaker. Ellis, sweetheart, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but Marlena showed up here tonight. She was crying. She said she was scared, said she messed everything up. She asked for your old room key. I didn't give it to her. I didn't know what to do. I stared at the screen. She went to my mother's house. Marlena hadn't visited my mom in nearly a year. She always said the drive was too long, the conversations too awkward. But now, suddenly she cared. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was exhaustion, emotional whiplash. She couldn't be with me. She clearly didn't want me. But the moment I left, she went looking for the version of me that stayed, the boy my mom remembered, the guy who still believed marriage was a place you didn't leave just because the lights dimmed. And that's when it hit me. She didn't want me back. She wanted the illusion of me, the safe, boring, predictable Ellis who would carry the bags, clean the mess, and never ask for anything in return. Her backup plan. Her emotional life raft. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not after what I saw. Not after what she said. And just as I was about to shut the phone off and disappear completely into the night, another notification came in. This time, it was a message from Julian. One I never expected. She told me she chose you. I thought you should know. I stared at Julian's message for a long time, rereading those 8 words like they were some kind of code. She told me she chose you. My first instinct was suspicion. Was he mocking me? Trying to manipulate me into going back? But something about the message felt defeated. Like he wasn't writing as a man who had won anything. He was writing as a man who realized he'd been used just like I had been discarded. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I drove home. Not for her, but for me. I needed to see the place I once called home, to decide for myself what it would mean going forward. The lights were off when I arrived. The air was still. I unlocked the front door, walked into the quiet, and found her curled up on the couch, mascara smeared, eyes red. She looked up like she hadn't slept in days. I messed up, she whispered, barely loud enough to hear. I kept looking for sparks, and forgot who stood beside me when everything else went dark. For a second, I almost softened. But then I remembered, healing doesn't come from rewinding. It comes from rebuilding. So I sat beside her. Not to reconcile, but to listen. For the first time in years, she spoke with vulnerability instead of control. She admitted she'd been drifting for months, trying to fill a void with flattery and attention from someone who didn't even know her favorite coffee order. She said Julian was nothing more than an escape hatched from her own unhappiness. And maybe she meant every word. Maybe she didn't. But I told her something I never thought I'd be able to say without shaking. I forgive you, but I'm choosing me now. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. We just sat there, surrounded by years of memories, some beautiful, some broken, and finally let go. It's been 3 months since that night. I've moved into a small apartment with creaky floors and cheap blinds, and for the first time in a long time, I feel light. I joined a writing group, started going for walks without checking my phone. I even laughed so hard at a bad movie last week that strangers turned to stare at me. And sometimes, yeah, I still think about her. But not with bitterness. With clarity. Because sometimes the most painful sentence doesn't end the story. It just begins the next chapter. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever experienced a single moment that changed everything, a sentence, a glance, a choice, drop it in the comments. What historical event or turning point has always fascinated you? We'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more true confessions from the edge of ordinary life.